So statutory sick pay, if a member of staff has gone sick or they have been forced, as is the case with one of my staff, to self-isolate, they can claim statutory sick pay from day one. The problem is it's not a very high figure, so just bear that in mind. Right, small business grant via the local authority. If you are on the local authority's radar, you would have got a letter, and I'm just looking at the one that I've had, Coronavirus Small Business Grant Fund. And it says the government's announced two support schemes, the Small Business Grant Fund and the Retail, Hospitality and Leisure Grant Fund. Based on our current records, the above property is eligible for the Small Business Grant Fund. So I've had my form. I have then applied to the local authority. It is relatively straightforward. It is, are you a sole trader, a limited company, or a partnership? If you're a limited company, what's your company number? What's your VAT number? What's your year end? And what's your bank? And that's it. So I've done that, sent it off. I'm actually waiting for, so if anyone knows anybody who's in the retail, hospitality and leisure grant area, could you let me know so that I can get hold of a copy of their letter so that we can start to build up evidence as to how it works for them. The problem we've got, having spoken to Elmbridge, Runnymede and Spelthorne, is that each council seems to have their own interpretation as to how to interpret. So we may well find people are complaining that there isn't a level playing field. But that particular one is now operational if it's relevant. And as I say, I come on to the small business grant for retail, leisure and entertainment firms. Clearly the revenue will be, or the local authority will be asking more questions because they need to find out what category you are and whether you are eligible for the 10,000 or up to 25,000. As I say, at the moment, I don't know anymore. Certainly in Elmbridge, they have not yet sent out the letter to the ones for retail, leisure and entertainment. Right, business rates. If, like us, you pay business rates, you will be getting a rates holiday. So you will get a letter sometime, and I gather it probably may now be June, just reminding you what your rates normally are and effectively giving you a 100% rate relief. But it is only for this year. Right, now we come to what I call the scam, and I think Mike Cherry was equally booed. The government is running what they call the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. What they haven't bothered to tell us is that this loan guarantee is from the government to the banks, subject to the banks meeting certain criteria. And effectively, those criteria are, is this a viable business? And it is interesting, I put in an application for us and I got an immediate no back. And I pointed out, I don't understand, we've got £50,000 worth of share capital and we've got about 1,000 in reserves. And they said, yeah, well, you've only got 1,000 in reserves. I said, yeah, because I take all the profits out every year by way of dividends, but we got 50,000. Oh, no. Your reserves are totally inadequate. And I'm saying, but we've got 50,000 in share capital. Doesn't matter. Your reserves are inadequate. So it seems it's difficult anyway. And if you are lucky enough to be offered one, you've got to give a personal guarantee. And secondly, the best rates I've found so far are 8% interest, and the worst rates are 12% interest. So I'm not sure how this is deemed to be a good scheme. And frankly, when I heard the Chancellor saying about the furlough, that it'll be paid out in June, but doesn't matter, you can all borrow money on the loan, the government's loan scheme, or the loan guarantee scheme, it just wound me up, because Joe Public is going to be thinking, oh, well, my boss can make an application and he'll be able to get the money. It's not that easy. So just bear that in mind. Right. Support for the self-employed. Effectively, what the government is going to be doing, the basic will be the average of the last 3 years' income, assuming it is more than 50% of your total income. So, what if, and I've been in touch with the revenue on this, I have clients whose total income is rental income. One of them has 22 properties. They will not be eligible for any support because that's not self-employed income. That's rental income. So you look at your total income, is the self-employed portion, and if you remember on the tax return, there's a box for self-employed, is that more than 50%? If the answer is yes, you will be deemed to be eligible. They will take the average of the last 3 years and you will get 80% up to the 2,500. If you haven't been working for 3 years, if you've been doing it for 2 years, they'll take the average. If you've only been working for 1 year, again, they will look at the 1 year. Now, the problem will be if you started in 2018-19, which is the year they're looking at as the first year, and let's say you made £1,000 because you were a startup, that £1,000 will be divided by 12 to work out a monthly figure, and you will get 80% of 1/12. In short, bugger all. So it's not that brilliant a scheme. So watch this space. Right, number 10, protection from eviction for commercial tenants. One of the concerns, obviously, many of my clients have had is, yes, but we can't afford to pay the rent. The simple answer is that the government has now passed a temporary law that now makes it illegal to evict commercial tenants for non-payment. And in fact, I should have added a box, a number 11, which is protection for eviction for residential tenants. So again, they can't be kicked out at the moment. And in fact, there was a very good case recently of somebody who is a nurse who their landlord was trying to evict them, or has been trying to evict them. They were paying the rent, but because they were at risk of coronavirus, so that person had to call the police, and the police had to threaten the landlord with imprisonment because what he was trying to do was illegal. So just bear that in mind. Right, with thanks to Action Coach, and in fact, Action Coach, you will notice we put in there, Action Coach are running a whole series of webinars, and Hamish, I don't think he was on this morning's one, but Hamish will be running these. Yes?
Yes, I'm here.
You are there, Hamish. Sorry. Great. Well, Hamish is running courses for people on this area. So please, everybody, make sure you've got Hamish's contact details because he can be helping you on this. This is not a 5-minute problem. This problem is going to be running probably for a year. And I don't just mean the initial that we're in lockdown for 12 to 18 weeks. It's how do we get our businesses up and running again once this problem is out the way. So please, everybody, go and talk to Hamish. He's full of ideas on helping people to get through this, I believe. Yes?
Absolutely. Yes, we've got a whole raft of material to help business owners actually just respond, as it says here, actually review where they are, how they actually survive for the next 3 months, and then actually start to, take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, because there is business there. There is stuff going on. I know there are obviously businesses really in a lot of hardship at the moment, but there are also opportunities. And it's a question of actually taking a look at your business and going back to fundamentals and say, well, what can I do? What can I offer my customer base?
Good. Well, please, everybody, talk to Hamish about this because it is important if you want to survive the storm. Okay, and then, whoops. And last of all, you've got the Chambers of Commerce, you've got virtual meetings. Leatherhead Chamber, courtesy of Mole Valley Council, has now been rebranded as Mole Valley Chamber of Commerce, and they are now offering free membership for 6 months. If you want to continue with them after 6 months, you'll have to pay. And you will find a lot of organizations are now doing special deals. OmniLocal, instead of their normal £350, are saying, pay us £100 and you can do a breakfast if you want every morning, or a virtual breakfast. So they're doing lots of things. So just have a look at who's doing what to help keep you afloat. And of course, don't forget the Federation of Small Businesses and what they're doing. So that's that. I'm now returning back to Mike.
Okay, thank you there, Derek. We've got a comment in the chat from Jeff. Jeff, you might as well speak your own comment in the chat.
No problem. I've actually heard from a friend of mine, a couple of friends that run a business in Winchester. They said they were proactively contacted by the local council about business rate relief. And then shared that with another friend who said he immediately went and applied online. So councils are looking like they will get to a place of being a bit proactive in respect of this. But I think it's all going to be, every council is going to run this in slightly different ways and at different speeds. So if you are looking for rate relief, don't rely on the council just getting in touch. Do keep an eye on things, but actually it's probably worthwhile sharing. If anybody is contacted by their local council about rate relief, share it in that LinkedIn group or through another medium so everybody knows what's available, because they might miss you. And it's a good grant from that perspective. A lot of these things might be not as attractive as they look at the front, but that rate relief can be quite good if you are renting any premises.
Okay, thanks. That's Jeff. From Louise.
I was just going to say, I just want to pick up on something else that Derek had said there, and I put a note in the comments. If you go to your bank, take the loan, as Derek said, it's not as attractive as it looks, but also do be very, very careful about that personal guarantee. About 2/3 of businesses have some form of debt, and about 50% of those have a personal guarantee. If you're taking anything in the cash flow, not only are you potentially charged a higher interest rate because of what the position is at the moment, but you're a bit more vulnerable. And if you put anything in there that creates that personal guarantee, and that's the first time you take a personal guarantee on a loan, if your business fails, actually you could be putting some of your personal assets at risk as well. So just really make sure what's in place there. Banks have been challenged around that, but I don't see that changing very quickly.
Just jumping in there, I do know the FSB has protested to the Chancellor about this. They do not like what is being proposed. And in fact, I've been saying to every client, the answer is do not touch it with a barge pole. And what is interesting is many of my clients are coming back and saying, we're going to work out what the salaries are. We prorogued the staff. We're going to work out what the salaries are, but we're just not going to pay them. If we get money from the government in June, we will then pay them. If not, tough. And this is what is going to be the problem, that businesses, once they start talking to their bank managers, are going to find that the banks are not cooperative. And frankly, I think it's obscene that the banks at best are asking 8% and at worst 12%. I think, to me, this is immoral when interest rate is 0.1% and all the British banks got bailed out by the government way back in 2008.
Don't forget as well with that question of sort of the morality of it. They've got an 80% guarantee that's backed by the government if they give out these loans. So you're taking an 80% government-backed guarantee, 20% of it's at risk. You put a guarantee on it. So yeah, I take the same approach. Just tread with caution on it. You could open a can of worms there.
Thanks.
Okay, your sound is a bit difficult there, Jeff. Louise has got a question for you. Derek, would you like to go ahead, Louise, and unmute yourself?
Right, I can see. Yeah, Louise, can you just tell us exactly chapter and verse?
Yeah, it's just a quick question, really. So I was PAYE until autumn 2018. And I started my business really in my first invoicing was February 19. So I must admit, previously I thought they were looking at the last 3 years, and so I wouldn't be eligible for anything. And now it looks like I might be, but I wondered how it worked if it's only been, I only invoiced from obviously February and March of last year, and then obviously for this year, how that works.
Right. Well, the revenue will look at February and March of last year. Well, let me step back a bit. Did you put February and March in your 2018-19 tax return?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that will be your baseline. They will look at that. They will then divide that by 12.
Okay.
And they will use that as the basis for working out how much support that you're going to get. So you're probably going to be looking at about £100 a month, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
That is the problem. It's that there are going to be losers, and you're going to be one of them, I'm afraid.
I was qualified. I qualified anyway, so okay, that's fine. So it's literally over the last 3 years. Irrelevant. What they do is they average over the last 3 years, even if you've been trading less than that time, they just average it over the longer period.
No, if you've only been trading for 1 year, they will average it over 1 year. The problem is that if you've only been trading for 2 months, 2 months is deemed to be 1 year. Okay. So let's say your income in those 2 months was 5,000. Your income for the year will be deemed to be 5,000. So they'll divide that by 12.
Yeah.
And then, so that's 400 in round terms. So they'll take 80% of 400.
So they wouldn't take into account this year because it hasn't been filed yet, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
I understand. Yep. Okay, thank you ever so much for clarifying.
Brilliant. And I noticed, hang on, Linda, Linda has asked about the furlough. Sorry, Linda, I did forget that bit. Yes, directors who are taking PAYE are, they are furloughed. The interesting thing here is that they can continue to do work as their directors' legal responsibilities. So what they can't be doing is work that brings income, raising sales invoices. So I would argue that effectively, if they are doing marketing and admin they'd have to do because the law still requires them to keep proper books of account and keep everything up to date. And I would say that as a director, they have a responsibility to do marketing. What they can't be doing is selling their services and raising sales invoices.
Great. Yeah, I just wanted clarification on that. It's not for me, it's for my son's business, because he's in that situation. So at the moment he can't sell anything. He's an optician. So obviously they can't open at all. So, but obviously he's doing quite a lot of work in the background on getting his data right and all of that sort of activity. So as long as he's okay to still do that, then he's able to take furlough. Is that right?
Right. Okay. Question there. You would need. Does he do work for the NHS?
No.
Right. In which case, the answer is yes. I've got a number of dentists, all of whom are absolutely breathing fire and brimstone. They have all been told: 1, they're not eligible for the grant. 2, they cannot furlough their staff. 3, they have to continue paying them full pay. 4, they've got to make them available to the NHS in hospitals, etc., where they needed. And 5, because they're doing NHS work, they all get a target. And surprise, surprise, nobody is going to meet target. So the result is every dentist in the UK is now going to get a fine for failing to meet target. And yet they've got to continue employing their staff and paying them, even though they can't use them. So the British Dental Association is up in arms. It's gone public. It's written to all its members saying, tell the government to get stuffed. And it's also copied the government in and basically said, the moment this is over, every one of you should now resign from the NHS and let the government pay the cost of bailing us out as an industry. I have to say, having seen the letter from the NHS, and I've got a copy here, I could not believe it. Whoever wrote that from the NHS is an idiot. He should be taken out and shot in public.